And welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you for joining us again this week in episode 4. We're delighted to have with us. We were talking about this being a love theme. This is the love of a father and daughter and their love for horses and the great success they've had at Glenwood Farm in Versailles, Kentucky. And joining me now is Tanya Gunther, who joins us all the way from London, England. She is not only a noted horse person, but as well an international banker. So, Tanya, thank you for being with us.
Hi, Kenny. How
Maybe
are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Maybe later on I can get you to help balance my checking account book, because you're wheeling and dealing
Well,
in worlds I don't know.
I hung up my international, my banking, career when I switched over to the horse racing business. So I don't know if I could balance it, Kenny.
Well, I'll just stay in limbo and hopefully nothing bounces. But let's talk about
Good.
this horse racing business of you and your dad and how it kind of all came about. Canadians who have found a home in Kentucky, and of course, your dad, and well-deserved, the Eclipse Award winner as Breeder of the Year for that horse named Justify that won the Triple Crown last year. What was all that like with the whole Gunther family when that happened, when Justify was making his run?
When he was going through the Triple Crown Trail, it was just one of the most exciting experience, I can remember, going to the Derby and having him in front, heading for the wire. It was just like, I don't know, it was like you went into another world watching him come down the stretch, mud and all, and him having his white face in front. It was just unbelievable. It's so hard to describe. And then my whole family got together for the Belmont to watch him, make the bid for the Triple Crown. And so it was so exciting because our whole family got into it. And, it was a thrill of a lifetime to think a small farm like ours, with 20 to 30 mares could pull off something like that was just beyond imagination.
And we had Lenny Schulman on last week, actually, talking about that. Of course, you're part of the book that he has written about Justify. And at one time,
I've heard.
for like $499,000, you could have kept Justify, I guess was the deal, right?
Exactly. Yeah, my dad was the underbidder. So for $1,000, and the rumor has it that they almost walked away from him as well. The people that ended up buying him, Winstar and Company, but one of the group convinced them to proceed, and so it's just a flip of a coin sometimes how fate works out.
Now, because this is what you do, it's what your dad John does. You're in the breeding business, which is basically to breed the horses and sell the horses. You're not a racing stable. Not that many farms are. Most of them breed and they sell. There's a few that obviously keep their stock to run. But do you ever even let that enter your mind? For $1,000 more, we could have owned the Triple Crown winner as well.
Well, I mean, we take most of our yearlings to the sale. We need to, have the business run smoothly and bring the cash flow in. So we tend to take all of our horses to the yearlings to the sale. We will race horses that we RNA, and so we were very close to racing Justify with $1,000 difference. But I think fate is what it is, and if we had kept him, we may not have chosen the same path, and who knows, maybe it wouldn't have happened. I mean, Bob Baffert is an incredible trainer, and I think there are a few people that would have been able to get an unraced 2-year-old through the Triple Crown Trail and get it done, and he's one of them.
That's the only way. That's the only way. Yeah. No, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say.
Race yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's the only way to look at it. You can't look back. You can't ever look back in this business.
No. I mean, I thought I would be more dejected about having sold a Triple Crown winner, but actually that really hasn't crossed either my dad's mind or mine because, we mostly race on the East Coast when we keep horses that don't sell at the sale. So it's highly unlikely we would have followed the same path as what they did with Justify. And so I'm just so grateful that it all happened because it's been a ride of a lifetime. And the whole farm everybody is so proud and feels a part of having raised him and created him. And so it's just, it's such a big deal to have bred him. Owning is obviously a different thing, but to have bred him, that's something magical for us.
I'm talking with Tanya Gunther. Her dad, John, they own Glenwood Farm in Versailles, Kentucky, which they probably call Versailles where you are right now in London, England, right?
Yeah, exactly. For sales, what's that?
Yeah, I was going to say, and don't even get into in Fayette County, Kentucky. There's also an Athens instead of an Athens. See, we don't want to confuse all the Europeans too much.
No.
Tanya, as far as this time of the year, we talk about love is in the air. Love is in the air in horses right now. The breeding season is underway. How far out does the breeding season start for Glenwood Farm and you and your dad getting together and deciding which stallion will be brought to which mare? I'm sure it's not you decide that you flip a coin and you say, let's do this in January because the breeding season starts in February.
Yeah, it's a difficult. Some people ask, how long does it take me to figure out a mating or to decide on a plan? And it's an impossible question to ask because it's something that I think about basically most of the year. Different things are happening and you're trying to always keep your, things in your mind, in the back of your mind as a breeder. And so it's constantly kind of sifting through. And if I think of a good idea in, let's say, April, I'm going to write it down and consider it later. As we approach the breeding season, you're normally doing contracts we're doing contracts November, December, possibly earlier, possibly later, but around about that time for the following year. It can take weeks or months, sometimes longer to, make a plan. Each mare is different and some might take longer than others. The mating of Justify actually been thought about a year prior to us actually doing it. And so it's a long kind of iterative process. And, it's just interesting to think, what if we bred the mare to Scat Daddy 2 years in a row? Who knows what would have happened?
And I guess that's always a question probably every breeder asks, and everybody that goes to the horse sales wonders about, what if, or I'm sure people try to give you ideas that are in the horse business a little bit? Hey,
occasionally, yes.
Hey, I know y'all just bred a Triple Crown winner, but let me tell you, I think this stallion would do better with this mare. I mean, do you get those?
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah, occasionally.
Do you then point to the Eclipse Award that you guys just won, that your dad John just won, and say, and there was that Triple Crown winner, we kind of know what we're doing?
Not usually, no. I kind of figure a good idea can come from anywhere, and I tend to make up my own mind on things anyways. So I guess it's just interesting for people. Find it interesting to give their points of view sometimes, and who knows, maybe one day I'll listen.
No, don't pay no attention to them. What you're doing is great so far. See, it's perfect the way it is.
Oh, thank you.
Now,
we try hard.
Is this like a 50-50 split? Do you and your dad sit down, you make these decisions? Does he make the most? Do you make the most? Are you like Lennon and McCartney when they wrote a great song? They just both take credit even though they only added a couple of chords to it? How does it work?
Well, it's an interesting process, which I think some people would find interesting. I suppose, like, I do most of the work. I guess I bring my banker mentality or whatever to the situation, and so I do a lot of work and present ideas to my dad. He's not much into that kind of pen to paper work, and so he lets me do that, and then he'll either say, yeah, that sounds great, or he'll shoot it down, or he'll come up with some other idea, and depending on how strongly I feel about the mating or his idea or my own, I'll argue with him and vice versa. And so it becomes an iterative process until we're both happy with the decision.
In a perfect scenario, when would the breeding season end at Glenwood Farm this year? In a perfect scenario, everything goes according to plan and all the mares are covered.
Well, we tend to breed mares right through to the end of May and sometimes into June, much to the dismay of some of our European boarding farms, because that means that the next year they'll be foaling quite late in the season. But we Northern Dancer was a May foal, and so we always keep that in mind when breeding our mares, that a good horse can come late, as a late foal as well as an early foal, and so we keep going from January till June. When the sheds close, we're usually done.
Nice with that Northern Dancer reference. I believe he was Canadian bred.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew that. And why would I bring up Canadian bred with you and your dad, both Canadians?
Yeah, it all ties in.
That's what I do on this show, Tanya. I try to weave those things in. I gave you that Lennon McCartney reference because I know you're in London, England right now. Maybe you've walked across Abbey Road. I don't know. If I ever get there, that's what I'm going to do.
Actually.
You have?
I used to live right near Abbey Road, so it was kind of when I first moved to London, I lived near Abbey Road, so it was kind of a cool thing for me to walk down the road.
You a Beatles fan?
Yeah, absolutely. Who's not?
That's what I've always said. I think everybody's pretty much, that's kind of universal. I say you mentioned Beatles, everybody likes Beatles. Now you mention Justify, and everybody likes Justify. Even those that said, this unraced 2-year-old, what is he doing in the Derby? And after the Derby, I think a lot of people changed their minds. Did you think after the Derby, because I interviewed Bob Baffert on NBC, right after the race, and he mentioned then about going for the Triple Crown. I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but I asked him the question again because it kind of surprised me because, most people after they win the Derby, they're happy. We'll see what next in the Preakness. Bob didn't guarantee anything, but he thought he had a Triple Crown shot right then with the performance in the mud on Derby Day. Did you guys think at that time that this horse could really be that special?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, the biggest task was, the Derby is such a challenging race for the best horse to win because of, the draw, all these factors that play in with the big field. But once he had that, I thought, wow, because I felt his talent was there, whether his maturity. I also thought watching him in the Santa Anita Derby that he had the mind for it. He showed he could handle a crowd, and he handled the crowd at Churchill Downs extremely well for such an inexperienced horse. And so having won the Derby, I thought the Preakness should be right up his zone because, he had that turn of foot. He was powerful, determined. He had all those things going for him. And so after the Derby, I really thought, oh my God, he might actually do this. Some people, I guess, question whether he would get the Belmont distance, but I actually never did because he was bred for it. In my opinion, he was bred for it. If you look at deeper in his pedigree, and I just always felt that his action was so efficient and his stride so big that, class alone would get him that extra bit if he wasn't quite made for a 1.5 mile distance as his perfect distance. I just thought the class would get him there. So yes, I did.
Are we excited about any particular matings this breeding season, or you just wait and hope and see how it turns out?
Well, we're breeding a few mares to Justify, so we're very excited about those. Obviously, we'll have to wait until 2020 to see the result, but quite excited to see the first Justify foals, and we're trying really, really hard to have one of our foals be a top horse for him. So that's a big challenge, and the bar has been raised after last year, so I'm feeling the pressure a little bit.
Yeah, because unlike those that appreciated Justify and cheered him on and can remember or have a keepsake, saving that $2 win ticket or whatever they did, in your business, it's every year. Justify won last year, Triple Crown, Eclipse Awards for you, for your dad, and life is good at Glenwood, but now you start all over.
Exactly. You got to keep it up.
Don't want to keep any pressure on you.
Yeah,
nope.
Exactly.
There's no pressure for you to have.
What do we do as the second act?
That's right. No pressure on another Triple Crown winner, okay?
Well, my dad's quoted somebody who's done it before, so he did put the pressure on me for that too. But he said it doesn't have to be this year, though. So thanks, Dad.
We'll give you a couple of years, and then we expect another Triple Crown winner. That seems fair, Tanya.
Exactly. No pressure at all.
None at all. Uh, you talked about, and I'm reading this in one of Lenny's articles recently, Lenny Schulman's articles in the Blood Horse. I don't want to breed just a commercial horse because long term, that's not a viable strategy. And then there's some more things in there, but I thought that was a really interesting quote from you.
Well, like I feel like we do take our horses to the sale, obviously, as I mentioned, as yearlings generally. And if their best day is at the sale, then to me, that's a failure. If we sell a horse for a lot of money, normally our expectations are quite high for that horse as well. So it is extremely disappointing if they don't turn out. And the ultimate goal is to have a racehorse. So I want their best day to be on the track, not in the sale ring, even though obviously it's helpful for us if we have a good day commercially as well to keep the ball rolling in terms of cash flow. But, it just means so much if they go out there and win big races. That's what it's all about for me and my dad.
Well, I think that's exactly why Glenwood Farm and the Gunthers are so successful, to be honest, is that kind of thinking. I really mean that.
Thank you. Thank you, Kenny.
Tanya, thank you for being on with us, and I appreciate you calling all the way from London, England. And when you get back in Kentucky, we'd love for you to come by our studio. It's not too far from Glenwood Farm, not too far at all.
I'd love to do that. Thanks for the interest and appreciate the call. Take care, Kenny. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you very much, Tanya Gunther, joining us. Tanya and her dad, John, the Gunthers, are great horse people. Glenwood Farm, the breeder of Justify. And Tanya, again, thanks for your time from London, England. Yes, we're international today here on The Racing Show. We'll have more. And remember, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Horse Racing Show. You can watch us listen to us on Google Play and iTunes. I think I got it all down. We'll be back with more right after this.